Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to do challenge modes with you again, and today we're taking a look at Grimrail Docks, Grimrail Depot, that's the name of it. Alright, obviously gold challenge mode. Today I'm joined by the Smitty Bacall gang. You're probably aware of them, all a series of great members, but the first thing I'm going to show you guys about this dungeon is the Invis. Alright, we're going to talk a little bit more here before we start, but this is a subsequent attempt that does not succeed. Alright, so you're going to Invis out of the gate, but that's not why I'm showing that. You see the warrior? He basically, the reason I'm showing you this is because this Invis out of the gate is particular. Alright, it's going to be a constant nag on your dungeon because it's going to mean that you're not going to be able to use a potion until the very end. Alright, and if you don't do it correctly, you could easily wipe, right? So what he did not do there, he did not do it quick enough. Try to cut corners, and it's so easy to just get super frustrated with this dungeon because you wipe, and you come here and fuck up an Invis and have to start all over. You know what I mean? It's brutal. So before we even start the dungeon, I would recommend, the one time I would recommend a melee, bring a rogue. If you have a rogue, you do not need to use an Invis pot here. A skilled rogue can distract and clear a path for you to use, his actual ability Invis, cloak, whatever it's called. Or you could also use a ring. All right, I don't know what I'm looking at in my gear here, but anyway, there's a ring you can get that allows you to Invis basically, and it's only 10 seconds. But how it would work is you would put it on, run halfway through the pack, and then pop it, and everybody would stealth and get out of combat. So anyway, that's it. If you're having trouble with the timer on the dungeon, I would greatly recommend that. All right, it saves, like I said, 10 minutes worth of pre-pots and potions that you wouldn't have otherwise. Adds a ton of DPS overall to this first boss and everything. So anyway, yeah, we're gonna start the actual dungeon now. As you've already seen, you're gonna Invis out of the gate. Unfortunately, I hate this. Is my least favorite thing about any challenge mode. Ever having to Invis out of the gate is just brutal. It's absolutely not fun, and it really ruins my rhythm as a tank because I like to use a lot of potions. The first thing you need to do is grab this mob. All right, you're gonna grab one Grimrail Overseer. This is easier than it looks. All right, or this is harder than it looks, is what I'm trying to say, because that guy is going to patrol, all right? So if Invising out of the gate wasn't bad enough, you also have to get lucky with that patrol. If he is not there, if that was an ideal circumstance, right? What you just saw in this video is unlikely to ever happen again. Well, I mean, it could happen, but it's hard to get right there. So if whoever the first one there is, make sure you get out of stealth and Viz, whatever, and try to find the guy. If not, you gotta wait. And if not, if he's super far away, then you'll kill the boss first and then pull him after and pull him up the ramp. But anyway, we're gonna assume that you get the pat and that's the boss. Now you'll see the Bloodlust. Do not use Bloodlust until both of them are down. Don't forget, you're gonna be fighting the Overseer and the boss, the two mobs of the boss. The boss is very self-explanatory. I don't really have anything to talk about. Obviously, move. If you have two melee, it's going to be pretty tough to dodge those. The first time I ever did this is actually the second time I completed gold, and I did it on this character twice, but this is the second time I completed gold in this dungeon. And the first time we had two melee, Shaman and Rogue, and yeah, it was pretty... the Shaman and Rogue kept like running into each other's bombs, but as a tank, you want to make sure you position him so he smashes the thing. It's pretty difficult to do, honestly, if you're trying to keep yourself alive the whole time, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. As you see there, I lead him pretty hard, and then when both are down, you should definitely try to kill the small guy as much as you can, cleave off the big guy. The big guy obviously is attackable 100% of the time. The small guy is not. He's only attackable when he's shooting these bombs out, so all range DPS should probably focus on him. Healers, you're going to have to watch. You're going to get interrupted when he does the slam right there. That will interrupt you if you're casting. So, I mean, this fight is just a mess. This whole dungeon is a mess. I absolutely hate this place. I don't know. I don't like Everbloom because of some of the skips, but I feel like this place in general... Look how the guys are just getting crushed as well. This is just crazy. I don't know how we're even still alive right now, but anyway, yeah, I hate Everbloom, but this one has the most annoying parts. Like, it's just start to finish super annoying. So we barely skate by on that, right? Look at that. That is insane. We barely skated by on that, and that's the easy part of the dungeon. So the next part is gonna be, it's gonna be a little weird. I don't really know how to describe this. These mobs all put like the stacking debuff on you, which makes you take more damage from their ability that they do that there. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's just a solo mob. All right, now watch what I'm gonna do here. So we're gonna get it low. If you had the pat before, you'd want to make sure you kill the pat bring it into this room, kill the Pat, and then kill this guy. Or maybe the other way around. You could probably drag the Pat with you, but I'm going to pull. Now watch. It switches target. Watch how many times it switches targets. So I just taunted it. Now I taunted it again. It's going to switch again. It's like, I don't know what's going on in this dungeon. This room, like this hallway, is just a mess. It's a disaster. All right. I don't understand why that happens. But, you know, the fact that you don't have an armor pot and the fact that this, you know, these mobs just constantly switch threat. And I was doing it with these guys, and the major's like, oh my God, I'm not doing this with some noob who doesn't know how to tank. This is not the tank's fault. Okay, I'm putting that on the table right now. No way is this the tank's fault. I'm doing more DPS than 2 people in the group. And it's like randomly selecting the mage or the healer. You know what I mean? What? How am I doing more DPS and less threat? Doesn't even make sense, right? It's not the tank's fault. It's some kind of weird bug, glitch, error. I don't know. Maybe you guys do know. If you do, leave it in the comments. But otherwise, I'm going to presume it's an error, right? So this is going to be really difficult. This is actually much harder than it looks. We got pretty lucky there. Good defensive. If you chain pull like that and you keep that debuff up the whole time, you're going to get crushed. Now, here's where the real dungeon begins, right? This is pretty short considering how difficult this pack, these packs coming up are. You'll want to make sure you have stuns here. If you do this dungeon without at least 1 stun, this is going to be really tough. We do have 2 good stuns, so it's not too bad, but you'll see chain stun back to back. Obviously, if you don't know this dungeon, if you've never done this dungeon on Heroic, see that fire right there, man. That is the mechanic, boys. If you don't know that mechanic, then you might as well just not even try to do this because you're just going to get fried. It is so difficult to dodge that, keep up the... I don't know, it's just a mess. And the fact that you're fighting on a little narrow train, you know what I mean? I could death grip over these boxes, but healers can't heal over them, like right now. So the healer has to be in line of sight, and the bombkin's trying to struggle to get in line of sight. It's just a mess. These bombs and boxes and crates and stuff like that are just... I don't know. They make this place so much more difficult than it has to be, and unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with that. That is the inherent challenge of this challenge mode, frankly. The trash itself is made more difficult than it needs to be by the actual surroundings. And you're going to see in the second... So this is like essentially the second train car, but I'm cutting these 2 as one because the first was just a 1 pack. So we're going to pull that pack, this pack, and then the next pack. The brute can be stunned, all right? Something a lot of people probably don't know. You can stun the brute despite his size. So make sure you're doing that. He, once again, has a stacking enrage, so make sure you're trying to stun him to reset that enrage or trank shot it, whatever. And these mobs here, the flame seers or whatever, they're going to put the pile of the red pool, it's a fire pool, flame tongue there. They're going to put that down underneath you. So you could stun, which we try to do, but we fail. Doesn't really matter. Just move out of it. Now, in the next room, it does fucking matter because you're going to see how dangerous this next room is. So we're going to chain pull this last pack with this pack because this pack has 2. So there we go. Just 2 shrapnel blasts happening at once. Good luck. It's impossible. Impossible. You know what I mean? It's literally impossible. You just try to dodge it. I don't know what to say. People say like, oh, you can dance the shrapnel blast. That's what they call it. Well, guess what? If both happen at staggering times, which happens pretty frequently, like if they both don't go in the same direction, I don't know how you can dodge it. I've tried 1,000 times. It's just so difficult. But I guess I do a decent job enough here. I feel like this is like an artificial mechanic. Like the damage you're taking in the pack is already high enough. You shouldn't need to worry about that. But that's what makes it tough. All right, now here we go. The crux. If you could pull this pack off, you are getting gold. All right, I promise you that. We're going to pull the rest of the train. That's 2 giant packs. We got... Oh man, look at the mobs in this. Oh, we got the flame seer, we got the 2 shrapnel blast guys, we got a Hulk, all right? So you got an army if you're a DK. If you're not a DK, re-roll DK and come do this on a DK because there's no way you're doing this without army. All right? We get 2 good stuns in. So we open with shockwave and then or maybe we didn't use, I don't know. Either way, we stunned twice back to back, all right? And I got Icebound up. I got every CD up, all right? And that's it. I'm done. I cannot take a single melee hit from here on out. These guys do a ton of damage. The Hulk is going to be enraged at this point. It's just a mess. So you got to start kiting, all right? This is probably easier to do as a monk or maybe a paladin even. But... yeah, you got to have it happen, all right? So what we do is I kite backwards and I get a grip across. We got a bombkin. Bombkin's exceptional for this. They could, you know, keep everything in the vortex and then knock them back to prevent you from getting hit, stuff like that. Use the resources you have available. Shaman could drop root totem, etc. Lots of good options. This boss, you know, this is going to be a break, frankly, from the previous half of the dungeon. This boss is probably the easiest part of the dungeon, despite it being really wonky. The only way I could describe it, really strange. Different type of encounter, not your typical encounter. You want to try to get as much DPS in here as possible. It doesn't really matter though. As you see, this is prior to the nerf. The DK class had not been nerfed by the time I'm doing this. I'm actually doing top DPS on a boss. That's interesting. But yeah, so now the positioning where you tank him is pretty important. All right, we're gonna follow my lead here, and I'll show you exactly why. There's basically 2 spots you want to stand, right? The first one is where I'm about to land right here. You stand up against this rack, and when the fire comes on this side, then you just flip to the other side of the rack. You hug that like pillar. What would you call that? A support. You hug that support beam as hard as you can, and then go to the other side. And you do that because that cannon is the most readily accessible, and you could edge in a bit here to dodge the whatever the barrage he does, and you could still attack the boss. So as DPS, it's actually pretty important that you get some damage into the boss's cannon thing. I think it's about I want to say 500k. I don't know. That's a silly thing to say and not be right. So just know there's an amount of damage that you need to do to the boss. You can probably look that up. Unfortunately, I don't know it offhand, but I'm gonna go ahead and say maybe 500k to the cannon. And if you do 500k damage, then you only need to hit him with 3 shells. If you don't do 500k, then you got to get a 4th shell, which means another round of mobs. Basically 2 rounds of mobs, because they only come out every other at a minimum, right? So adds at least 30 seconds to the fight. So what we did not do this properly, right? Which is once again, province that you can still do this without absolutely everything going right. We used 3 shells, and then everybody in the group screaming to DPS the cannon. So that's an option as well. You know what I mean? If you're just in a pug, if you're not with the Smitty Bacall gang and you're trying to just pug this, that's fine. You can just wait until you see that he's mad low, because he's gonna be super low at one point. Like, he's gonna have a sliver of his health, and you can just finish it. The ads don't really, they don't do anything. It's the ads from the fight from previous, or the dungeon from previous, but I mean, it's a weakened version, I would say. Like, even the Shrapnel Blast, it does next to nothing. I don't think it actually stacks the damage debuff thing that it does as well, so you just kind of deal with it. As DPS, you guys should already know. I'm assuming you guys have done this dungeon on Heroic. If not, then you can't actually enter, so what the fuck are you even watching this video for anyway? But yeah, just know the mechanics from Heroic. Use the mechanics when they come down, the bombs and the shell, and then the Shrapnel Blast on the mobs. And like I said, we are tanking him here for a very specific reason, because we want him as close to that cannon as humanly possible. So right there, somebody could just look at that. It just kills them all. You know what I mean? And you should be able to do this. We don't do this nearly enough in this video, honestly. It's kind of strange. You should be able to do this pretty much like every other pack, because you don't use that Shrapnel Blast thing for anything else, right? It's only for killing these mobs. Now the boss is out. This is a pretty important... Well, he's not out yet. There he is. So now the boss is out. It's pretty important. You want to use the remainder of the mechanics to kill the boss. The boss shouldn't... if you do this correctly, you shouldn't even need to DPS the boss. Your players, don't even need to do DPS. Just use those mechanics. And you'll see the mage did, crazy damage, because he was the only one actually doing that shit. So, yeah, it's that easy. All the mechanics on that boss can do it for you. Now, here, I think I gotta say you gotta pull the whole room at once, all right? And the reason I'm saying that is because it's just, they're too dangerous. It's a weird concept, right? The packs alone, the mobs alone, are too dangerous to pull individually. Think about what that means. That means that they all do something that you need a CD for. So, in theory, if you combine all those things into one pack, stun them, and then use CDs when they do the things, the CD would be enough for all of them. Whereas if I needed a CD for the first thing, then I wouldn't have it for the second one. You know what I mean? So that's the way we approach it. We pulled the one by accident. That wasn't even intended, but it's not a bad idea. And then you just gather the rest up and start the stun rotation. There's the shockwave as you see it. Build an Icebound or Remorseless Winter, and out of that, I use Icebound like a total noob. I mean, I don't know why. I played this character for so long now, and I'm still making mistakes. That's a horrendous mistake. I use Icebound while I'm channeling a stun. Why the fuck would I? You know what I mean? Don't do that. Play better than me. This group, I'm not gonna say they carried me, because I'm playing a Death Knight. I'm carrying them just by default, especially pre-nerf. But yeah, I still have a lot to learn. You know what I mean? So hopefully this is helping you introspectively learn as well. But anyway, the guy who does the one I'm targeting right now, that's overhand smash thing right there, is gonna do bodacious damage. You know what I mean? Any type of I don't know, warrior's pretty survivable, because a lot of the damage in here is physical or magic, and if it's fire, everybody's dead. Doesn't matter what you are. But physical damage, warrior can mitigate a lot of. But say a rogue, a shaman, these guys are gonna get hit really hard by that, so you got to be ready for that. That's why that pack's that dangerous. You won't have army up for it, but anyway, this boss we get to with about 2 minutes left. I feel like it takes about 2 minutes to kill no matter what. the DPS, the single target in this group is not exceptional. In fact, I wouldn't, no offense to the Smitty Bacall gang, but the DPS in this group was not very good. We had some good AoE, we had good stun rotation, but that's the only reason we got through it. Because DK tank's ludicrous, and, so is Warrior DPS, and Warrior and Mage, you know what I mean? That's all you need to know. We got a fucking Bombkin, how about our Bombkin? But anyway, that's just complete the dungeon. As a healer, you probably want to get as much damage in there as possible, but just because this dungeon's pretty tight. A lot of people consider this one of the easier ones, and I don't really know why. I hate the inconsistency with the train. There's, those 5 pulls on the train are all really, really super dangerous. Like Skyreach trash dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, even Everbloom trash is not dangerous compared to this. This is definitely, this is up there. There was only ever really 2 crazy packs in Mob CMs, and that was Scarlet Monastery and, Scarlet Halls. Those 2 death packs were the only dangerous ones in all of CM if you did it right. But this, I feel like almost every... this whole dungeon, literally every trash you pull, going back to the walkway, the Cataran that you have to scale up and down, you know what I mean? With the 3, there's only 3 mobs and you can't pull them all together. So it's it's all super difficult, super dangerous trash. They certainly made challenge modes a lot more difficult, but we do beat this. Luckily, the Discipline Priest doing some decent damage, I guess, compared to other characters, probably not. Druid's probably your best bet one way or the other, Heart of the Wild or whatever, do some good damage and healing at the same time. But that's that. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and rate this one middle of the pack just because even though the timer's not too bad and, any group comp can really do it. You don't need any crazy skips or nothing like that. There's only the Invis out of the gate, and then everything else, you can't skip another mob, so that tends to streamline the process. But I don't know. The way I look at a dungeon like this is when we're wiping to the same trash pack over and over again, like in Skyreach as well, I feel like that dungeon is more difficult no matter what the rest of the stratagem contains, because, yeah, it's just fundamentally difficult. You know what I mean? It's not actually strategically difficult. So that's it. Yeah. Grimrail Depot, good luck. See you guys in the next video. All right, here we go.